to Cassette Connection, the podcast where we discuss music and meaning with the people who make it. My name is Ben, and with me is Alex.
This episode, Ben catches up with multi-talented performer Kirrah Amosa. Kirrah sings, acts and dances. She starred in multiple musicals, including The Bodyguard and Wicked. Kirrah has performed alongside the likes of Adam Lambert, Rita Ora, the Aston Shuffle, Touch Sensitive, as well as being a seasoned performer in her own right.
Kirrah and I talk about her musical upbringing and what led her to her career in singing. We talk about her experience in the US, working with new songwriters and diving into the world of the LA music scene. Kirrah also gives her thoughts on the sounds that are shaping pop and where she fits within that world. Kirrah's latest offering is an EP titled Island Way, which she describes as a process of learning and discovering her Polynesian cultural heritage.
Check it out.
I'm Kirrah Amosa. I'm Canberra born and bred, and I am currently living the gypsy life and living where I see fit wherever the wind takes me. I sing and I play and I write and I dance and I am merry. Beautiful island, so tropical. I grew up singing at home. My dad's a singer and is a full-time muso. Well, before Corona, we were both full-time musos. And I would grow up listening to him and his brother. They were a duo, Touch Your Soul. And I would grow up listening to them sing. And when I've been told, when I was about 5 years old, I would just add in my third harmony whenever they would rehearse. And then when I was 7, this is the first notable performance. They were singing at some gospel music event, and the Governor General was there and Idea of North were there, and I sang with them. And we still have a recording of it, and we listen to it every now and then, and I just sound so tiny. And I was 7 years old. So since then, I would always just, when Dad would go and play at pubs or at bars, if he started at 8 p.m. and miners had to be out by 9 p.m, I would go and sing my same two songs every week, make sure I'm out by 9 p.m, get my wedges and my hot chocolate, and then leave as the superstar that I was. And when I was old enough, in about year 12, I joined the band properly. And I was just doing heaps of weddings and parties and government functions and a lot of amateur music theatre here in Canberra, which I loved because it was so different and it really brought me out of my shell. But also being on the front line of Touch Your Soul and weddings, and Dad would look over at me and be like, go, entertain the people. And so I was forced out of my shell in the best way possible. But I never really thought that music, like being a superstar or being able to sell my own music, was something I could achieve until I was doing like a background kind of nothing gig outside somewhere at the airport, and a guy ran up to me and said, "I'm a producer, here's my card, I'd love to work with you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go, just another one of these." And I contacted him, and he was very professional. He wasn't straight up like, let's make music and this is what I want you to look like or sound like. He was just super like, I want to make sure we're on the same page as business people first and as humans, and then we can talk about music. And he's now my manager, and Al, and he has just given me the opportunity to do everything that I've done in the last 2 or 3 years. And for that, I know I wouldn't be where I am right now without that first meeting with him. And so now I'm just trying to. Now I'm currently writing and recording and releasing a bunch of stuff, and next up, world tours. So come on over, let's wind it down. Take my hand, let me lead the way. If you want to, I can take you. Guarantee that you never want to leave. I would say I want to come to the gigs and I want to sing my songs, and when's the next time we can sing, and when they'd rehearse I would just jump in. But when we were actually on stage and during gigs, for the first couple of years, I just sunk comfortably into his shadow, and he would entertain the whole wedding or the whole event and be the MC and then the funny guy and then lead the band and set up and pack up. And he would just do all these things. He'd just do the most. And through his example, to the point where eventually, like, it was when it was just the three, him, his brother and myself, it was just Dad playing guitar and us three singing. And then one day, because through high school for little like music recitals, when I do it in class, Dad would say, you need to learn to play the guitar. So I'd force myself. And then one year he said, I'm sick of being the horse to everyone's carriage. So he did force me to start bringing my guitar to gigs. And even if I could only play 3 songs of the 3 hours we were playing, through literally in the moment, in the gig, in the song, he would face his guitar to me and I would have to just watch his fingers. And that's how I learnt how to play. And obviously going through uni helped a lot. But yeah, without Dad, everything Dad did, everything that I do now is what Dad once did. And I was so lucky to have such a thorough, professional, super talented role model that just really did the most. So now my standards for myself and my show and my music and the way that I present myself to the organisers and in rehearsals is all stemmed from that upbringing. And he had the same thing. My grandpa, and our Polynesian upbringing, is very music and family orientated. We know how you want it. We know how to love the island way. I guess the way that I was brought up to be everything because we wanted to impress every client. So while Dad and I would be the ultimate background music and just create such a vibe, if we ever needed to, we would be the front man as well and have to be ready to take the lead at any point. Or if things were going wrong with an event, they would for some reason come to the musicians and we'd fix it. And that has definitely seeped into my life as an artist. So I love being able to walk into a rehearsal. Like I remember I did background vocals for a very established artist last year. And everyone loved her. She was I won't say who she is. She was amazing. But we walked into the rehearsal room and the whole time she was kind of like, whatever you guys think sounds good. And we were kind of like, well, this is your song. What would you like? And she just didn't really know how to lead the room, which was just surprising to me because maybe she has never had to. Whereas I feel like I kind of had, so I'm really lucky that I've had that experience to be able to do that easily. So I think for me, the only difference with being the professional background / event organizer and being the artist is people come to see my face and hear my name as the artist. But either way, I still treat it like it's the Grammys and I got to get it right. I must have been 11 when High School Musical came out, maybe. And I remember watching that movie over and over and over again. And I was like, besides the fact that this is the dream, being able to just break out in song and your whole school's on board, Gabriella looks like me too. And I can sing all of her songs. And so when High School Musical, the stage adaptation came to Canberra, I auditioned for it. I was 12 when I auditioned and I got it. And I was Gabriella, the lead girl, and the guy that was playing Troy was 17. And there was a kiss at the end of the show, and both of us separately went to the director and was like, me, like my little 13-year-old, tiny, innocent, frail little, went up to the director and was like, I don't think I can kiss this old man, hey. And they were like, no, don't worry, we'll take it out. But that was kind of the beginning. I'd done some tiny musicals through school and whatever too, but that was kind of the start of something new. That's a High School Musical song. That's hilarious. That's when I saw how much I loved musical theatre, but how many aspects it covered. Like it covered not just singing and not just acting and not just dancing. You have to be able to do all of it. And so through school, I would do more and more amateur theatre shows, and I was just so scared. I was really self-conscious and I had the voice and I had the talent and everyone could see that, but I just didn't know. I was too scared to show it. So my biggest note was always do more. I know you've got it in there. Just do everything bigger. And then when Wicked came to Canberra, and that was the show that I would grow up listening to the Wicked soundtrack and sing along and wish I was Elphaba, the Green Witch. And finally it came here and I was like, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do this show and I'm going to get this lead role. But they had already cast the lead before I auditioned. And so I went into that room thinking it was a level playing field, and it kind of wasn't. But they did come out. They also weren't expecting me either. So they came out of it offering me the alternate Elphaba. So in any professional show, for a role like Elphaba, there needs to be 2 girls because it's such a massive workload. So I would go on and do my 1 or 2 shows, and I was during that I was exposed to some professionals that had come down from Sydney that was doing it as their full-time thing, and so I was welcomed into that world. And they, at the end of the show, they sent me an audition for just the open call audition that was on Facebook for the Bodyguard, the musical, and I just submitted myself for that. And I was like, you know what, I've done Wicked. In Canberra, I could probably do an Australian tour or something. And I remember going through all the audition tapes, and I was doing it with my uncle, and he's also an actor, and he's as kind of a coping tough love thing. At one point I was really nervous, and he said, I don't know why you're nervous. You're not going to get it. And I was like, cool. Thanks, uncle. And a few months later I got the call and I accepted the show. But also, and until that point I thought, maybe this is it. This is what I want to do, and I'm getting paid to perform every night forever, and it's the best. But it was during that show I realised I was the understudy for the 2 lead female roles, plus I was in the show as an ensemble member. And it was during that time I realised I didn't want to be in the background anymore. And during that show that I started writing and releasing my own stuff, and that's actually what's pushed me to be where I am as an artist at the moment.
I can't call it quits. I got you wrapped around my wrist, and I can't let it go. Tired of being on the low with this. You're not what I need, no, but we're feeling it too deep, so don't come over just to sleep. Tell me now if you wanna fuck with me.
Recently you've gone over to the US, you've made the trip, and you've been working on your own music and that kind of stuff, and it's not, you're not doing performance theatre there or anything like that, but it is so different. It's got to be so different from coming up in Canberra and getting all this experience, having all these teachers, putting so much work in to be the best possible you, but then going over to the US and there's so many people who are doing
the same
the
thing.
Exact same thing, yeah.
Yeah, I although it's hard. There are so many artists that were trying to get to the same spot as me, but once I went over there, I realized that there weren't many artists like me. There are a lot of Polynesian female artists, but they can't all play instruments, or they can't dance at the same time, or no one looked like me as well. I was lucky that I was exotic, because I would say, "G'day, mate," and they'd be like, "Oh, you're not from here. That's cool. That's different. We want to work with you." And that just completely, my accent alone got me into rooms that my hard work couldn't have, So it was a very different playing field, but it was also, it all worked in my favor. Being a completely new face with I could have said anything. I could have been like, yeah, I was the lead of the Bodyguard, and they wouldn't know. But having that clean slate gave me all the confidence any confidence I was lacking. But also having to go over there was like I had to be my own cheer squad anyway. Whenever people would say, why are you going to the US? Or, back here in Australia, why are you going and what are you going to do there? I'd spend so many conversations convincing people why I needed to be there. When I finally got there, I was like, this is it. I'm going to make it work. There's no plan B.
Love me, that's what you're wanting to do. 'Cause something about you gets to me. I can't let it go. Tired of never knowing what to think. 'Cause I'm hopelessly romantic. Call me what you want. The feeling's automatic. I can be the one. I know you see the magic. Please don't get me wrong. Just know I'm only asking. 'Cause I ain't trying to
How is adding all these other aspects, adding dance, adding the theatrical elements, kind of taken you as Kirrah Amosa, the performer, the artist, to that next place?
Well, I've always had my eyes on people like Beyonce, who does it all, and which kind of sucks because she sets such a high standard for, other performers like me. But also, it helps that I love all of it. I love being able to get 4 dancers behind me and like dance with them and get the whole crowd going, and then to be able to calm it all down, get rid of them, sing with just me and a guitar, and then bring my family on and do an acoustic thing. And then if I wanted to, I could break out into a music theatre number. Like I enjoy all those aspects, which is why I put it into all of my shows. But yeah, going like you were saying, I guess in Australia, if you want to be good at all of those things, you need to do it yourself. You kind of need to go out and find all the right dance classes, and then the right singing teacher, and then the right producer to help you write songs. Whereas in LA, it's kind of in the air that you need to do all of it. And including things like social media. Social media is like, if you have less than 100,000 followers, it's like, oh, that's cute. Is that all? Like, it's just in the air to have that external what's the word? Well, just have that forefront on you all the time, to have the right face and the right Instagram over everyone else. Like, it's all so naturally part of it. And I learned that. Like, I guess I was kind of expecting that, but once I went over there, it was just like having the right story and wearing the right things all the time. Even going to the shops, you never know when you're going to post a story about whatever, or run into a famous person. Or yeah, it's a full-time thing over there.
We know how to love the island way. Something about them growing up by the ocean. We know how you want it. We know how to keep you wanting more.
Growing up, I would listen to a ton of Disney, which I think is why musical theatre has such a soft spot in my heart. And I often get told that I sound like I can put on this very convincing Disney princess voice, which I'm super proud of, and that's a bit of a party trick. So pull that out when I can. Grew up listening to Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson and Al Green, and having that kind of that funky soul RnB foundation. Also growing up listening, singing church hymns with my family every Sunday. So that's also a huge influence. And then, yeah, all the music theatre shows that I love to do. But then also I grew up going through school. I grew up listening to like indie pop, folk, acoustic stuff. So that's the stuff that I would play at gigs, as well as top 40 things. And then I have a degree in jazz. And that's just another side, like singing jazz standards is my favorite thing to sing ever. Very influenced by Dad, and to the point where I think I can make my voice sound like his. Like our blend is very almost too close sometimes, which is cool. I'm very, very lucky. John Mayer is probably my favorite artist in the whole world. I grew up listening to him. Dad liked some of his CDs, and so I just play them over and over again. But now, whenever I can, I'll go and see him. Or if I ever need to be on, my mind is racing and I need to go back onto neutral, I'll listen to John.
Come with me, we can live the island dream. You'll never go hungry around us. Love me good and I'll give you all you need. Come on, baby, let me love you down. No one else can love you like I can.
It's like, what is the actual pop sound? You know, like you can talk about it like academically, like pop is just everything that's contemporary and people like. Or you can talk about it stylistically. Like there
seems to be a formula.
There is a style
Yep.
to what, you know, is on the radio. What do you think that kind of style is today? Not in terms of like, oh, this is an academic breakdown of what makes a pop song, but like obviously we've lived through a lot of pop music, and in terms of what pop music actually is in society today, because it's kind of come from this thing from like in the 90s, and then in the 2000s it was like Britney and Beyonce and all this kind of stuff, and now it's completely different. Like you can't really listen to a pop song today and be like, oh, that sounds just like something from the 90s or something like that. Yeah.
Look, based on Spotify, because I am trying to write more poppy, appeal to a larger audience, I go through all the big pop Spotify playlists, and a lot of it is like kind of electro, like Dua Lipa. I think she sits right at the top of that kind of Calvin Harris and Dua Lipa sound, which is electro kind of pop. But then also Billie Eilish is the biggest thing that's ever happened to the whole world, and she is not like that. She's super moody and in the feels and kind of depresso, but everyone loves it and everyone needs it. But also, it depends on the pocket. Like I love RnB and I listen to a ton of it. And if I ever go to any RnB list, it's always the same sound and the same artists playing. So I guess in that world, that's the pop of RnB.
I want to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on, take my hand now. This ain't just another thing to me. I ain't want to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on.
Another thing is like you touched on that Billie Eilish thing. It's like in terms of what stylistically makes pop, is it just the marketing? Like is it literally just that there's a record label with a lot of money that says, okay, well, we're going to make sure she's on this radio station and she's everywhere and that kind of thing. It's not to diminish anyone's talent or anything like that, but it is like if you got a bit of cash, you can hit a couple eyes kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you have the right money, you can get your music in front of anyone you want to. And it helps that people like Billie Eilish have that, like she's got the weird kind of oversized baggy clothing and the bright green hair and the kind of emo vibe. And the way that she sings is really different and her music is very in the feels. But then there's also Lizzo, who looks completely different, who's this like big, loud, gorgeous, just unapologetic, crazy personality. And, like I said, Cardi B, like she's just crazy too. I think it helps if you can have a personality like that. Yeah, but I don't think labels would sink that much money to help take that even further if you didn't have it anyway. So, yeah, you kind of, in my eyes, I think you need it. It helps to have all the elements because the louder you are, the record label will see you and then they'll make you the loudest thing on the internet.
I never planned it like this, but now I can't call it quits. I Got you wrapped around my wrist, and I can't let it go. Tired of being on the low with this. You're not what I need, no. But we're feeling it too.
I have had hundreds and hundreds of conversations with my manager in the last 2.5 years, him begging me to be me and convincing me that what I am is actually enough, and maybe I don't need to do all the extra thing and have the wild themed songs and the crazy costumes. And it wasn't until maybe 6-8 months ago that I started, at his request, persistent request, started just posting things that I wouldn't usually post, things with like not without airbrush, or things not at the right best engagement time on Instagram, or things without auto-tune. And I started getting a better response to people, because I would get messages from people I hadn't heard of in years and years, or people that I'd never heard of, saying, I just thank you so much for posting what you're posting, because I can really relate to it. And I think I got addicted to that, and addicted to how much easier and less stressful it was to try and connect to people, because that's all I want to do. And then realizing that I could do it just by being me and not having to worry about not being cool enough or not looking the right way just really helped.
I can't let it go. Tired of never knowing what to think. 'Cause I'm hopelessly romantic. Call me what you want. The feeling's automatic. I can be the one. I know you see the magic. Please don't get me wrong.
With pop music, it's kind of this like self-referential thing. Like you'll hear, that Dua Lipa song that's like, let's get physical. And it just has that line from an old, what is that?
Yeah.
Whose song is that? Is it a Dion? No, it's not. It's
like a Madonna song or something.
Let's just say it is.
Okay.
But that kind of thing. Like this pop, it kind of is cyclical in a way, in that you've got people like, I don't know, Lady Gaga, you could relate her to Madonna or Cher, maybe. Like maybe like Snow Allegra to me is like a modern Sade. How do you see yourself in terms of like the lineage? Where's your place in that lineage of pop music?
Like, where do you think, what kind of artist could I relate to?
Yeah.
Modern day?
Yeah. Not so much that you're like, I'm directly emulating this person, but like this is like.
Well, I know I talk about Beyonce all the time, which is such a dangerous waters to be sailing. But I often base my work ethic and full vibe around what I've seen of her. But I feel like I'm her, as in the artist her, and Beyonce's like child, because I want to be able to do everything that both of them do. And I think with enough practice, I'd be able to. Yeah. But I think the more island version too, which I haven't really seen. I haven't seen a female Polynesian artist that does all of those things yet. So that's what I'm striving to do.
I can show you how. If you want to, I can teach you. Wanna learn the island way. Something about growing up by the water. We know how you want it. We know how to love the island way. Something about growing up by the ocean.
I am trying to dedicate all my time and my brand to my culture, that side of my culture, but mainly because I don't know a heap about it, and I'm trying to use it to learn more about it and to spread more awareness about our people as I can. But yeah, it is hard trying to like a lot of the time island or Polynesian artists, we just get associated with reggae, which isn't wrong. There's it's a little weird, but it's also not, it's not exactly us. And I feel like that was a box that we were kind of just put in. So when I'm listening to traditional Samoan songs and trying to find the right elements to use in a scale that, a pop scale that all people will like, it's hard. Like when I went to America and said, I want to do island R&B, people would be like, that's cool because I don't know what that sounds like yet. What does it sound like? And I was like, honestly, I don't know yet. I don't know either. So as we were trying to figure out that sound, that we did come across that hurdle of people don't really like new things. So there is that risk of trying to create a new sound that is too new for people's ears and they have trouble trying to adjust to it. So I think at the end of the day, I still need to stay genuine to what resonates with me, which is like a lot of voices and beautiful harmonies and guitars, and because that's the side of the Polynesian music upbringing that I had, and it does seem to resonate with people anyway. Like when we, at some point in my set on Friday night, we did an acoustic Samoan song, and even though people couldn't understand it, it still touched people in the right way. So that's kind of the goal, I think, trying to find the right way to do that, because I know that Samoan people or Polynesian people are very good at that. It's just being very open and loving. So trying to just translate that through music without it being a certain sound is what I'm trying to do. It's not rocket science, which I keep needing to remind myself. It really is just that feeling of family, because that's how I feel it, and so that's how I want to share it. It's a tricky one. I'm not trying to showcase that I am the new island princess and I'm the Moana 2020 trying to do the most for the islands. But that's why I'm very open about how little I know and trying to dedicate my sound and my time to learning about it and then sharing it. Because there is so much that I don't know about my own people, my own sound, but I know the feeling that I get when I'm around it. And I know the feeling that other people get when they're surrounded by my family too. I get so many friends and outsiders drawn to my family dynamic. I know that there's something there that can be shared for good. So I think that's the way that I try to approach it, is trying to just invite people into my world as much as I can. And if they want in, then cool. It's just enjoy the jungle chaos with me.
The feeling's automatic. I can be the one. I know you see the magic. Please don't get me wrong. Just know I'm only asking. Cause I ain't tryna get it. I just wanna know if you're in it. If you're getting cold, I ain't sticking around. I'm letting you know I ain't gonna be let down. So no, I ain't faking. I'm the private.
I'm listening to a ton of R&B right now. But by ton of, like, all the popular stuff. I'm just going through Kiana Lede and Her and Summer Walker and even Chris Brown, like all of that popular R&B sound. And a part of it is research, trying to find what resonates with people and what resonates with me, and if that's something that I can replicate. But also at dinner last night, my youngest sibling, who's 8, said, "Hey Google, play opera." And so we were listening to Mozart, like a Mozart playlist during dinner, which was wonderful, which is so surprisingly therapeutic that, it really depends on my mood. But when I'm in a good mood, it's R&B, which is right now. So Ass Like That, Victoria Monet.
Okay.
Would recommend. She's a good one.
Yeah. I like the latest Summer release. Summer Walker's one of my favorites.
I saw her live at an R&B festival end of last year in San Francisco. And I was a bit taken back because everyone was really giving the most, and she came on and just sat on a chair with her arms crossed and a big hoodie and didn't really say anything to us, and then suddenly just left when she was finished. And I was a bit like, as an artist, a female artist that really tries to give it the most and is ready to vomit after I come off stage because I've tried to run myself into the ground, and then seeing that, the way that she portrayed herself, I was very surprised, and it kind of turned me off a little bit. But, you know, I've heard different things about why she does it, and some people say it's part of her brand, and it's actually because it's so different, it's so eye-catching, or because she's really anxious, and I don't have any place saying that she needs to get rid of her anxiety to be a better performer based on my standard or what I like. But yeah, her music is very good, and I can't take away from that. So good on her.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's one thing we can touch on, though we have talked about the all things performance. But do you feel like, because you're taking so much effort to be, to do the dance, everything like that, but when you see someone like Summer, or I mean even her, she plays upright bass, she plays the guitar, she's not like really kind of running around doing everything, but she's putting so much effort into kind of being the presence on stage.
Yeah.
Do you think like sometimes like, oh man, maybe I can just kind of strip it back a little? Yeah.
Well, yes, but that's why I still incorporate that in my shows anyway, because it's something that I love, and it's something that I love to see. I love to see it whenever her performs, and she's able to have a stage full of singers and band and horn section, and she's on the piano, and then she can take all that away and just be her and a guitar, and it still has the same impact because it's so genuinely her. Yeah, I always will try and incorporate that too, but that's also how I grew up. That's how I started singing. It was just me and guitars and voices, and which is why I resonate with it so much too.
Don't keep me waiting. If you ask me, I would stay. This ain't just another thing, just another thing. I ain't one to play, no, I just want to play. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on, just come on and take my hand. This ain't just another test to me. I ain't one to
In terms of releasing music, you've put a few bodies of work together in terms of like you've got a couple of EPs and that kind of thing. Do you think nowadays, because we can, people talk about it all the time, it's better to just release singles now. It seems like there's two approaches at the moment. It's like either release as many singles as you can, or release 30 songs at once and make them really short.
Yeah.
Just so that they can be played over and over again. What do you think? Like, do you take that into consideration, or are you at the stage where it's like, I'm just trying to write songs and I'm just trying to put them out, so I don't really need to be like working on a full body of work to kind of get it all together and be like, oh, this is my debut and I'm out here and this is me.
Yes, I definitely take all of that into consideration. It's it's so hard. I'm sure when Billie Eilish and her brother were making the album that put them on the map, they were like, whatever, we love this and we're just going to do it. And then they took every Grammy that year or last year. And so you just don't know. You don't know what's going to hit and what's not. So you're consistently torn with what the stats say and what your heart says, what your head says, what your management says, the people with the money, what they say. I try to, whenever I write a song, I'm about to release a song, I send it to a few people, and the few people's opinions that I trust, and they always give me something different back. So I think as long as once again, same thing. It's so simple, but it's so hard to live by. If I love it, then that's kind of all that matters, and I need to try and do whatever. I'm going to sleep well at night knowing I've put out and my name on it. Not always easy though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the curse that comes with trying to create something from nothing. It's like, Yeah, I've listened to this 600 times and it's absolutely the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Or it's like the best thing I've ever made. And
Yeah.
then other people that weren't part of that process in creating it said, that was different.
Yeah.
Like, I
good.
don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear, okay. Like, trying to get it right every time.
Yeah.
So tropical. I'm up on cloud 9 with the sky so blue. Have you ever wanted something more? Stick with me and I'll make your dreams come true. So come on over, let's
The
wind it
process
down.
of being
Take my hand, let me lead
a musician that writes, but you know, you're the writer and performer and singer, but you need the producer to come in and you say to them, okay, well, I'm going for this sound with this song. Well, how do you think that's going to work? Let's work together. And what's that process like?
It depends. When I was in LA, it's very different. The main songwriter that I would work with, he would outsource all these different tracks based on what I said. So I'd say island RnB, not even knowing what that meant, but he would outsource all of these tracks, and then we go into a studio and maybe pick one of them and just top line some melodies over the top, like just take turns going into the booth and just singing a whole lot of la-di-das and shubba-ba-da-ba-daps. And then we'd come back and listen to it, and together we would pick, you know, what melodies sound cool here, what could be a good hook and what could be a good verse. And then he'll go in and just write a bunch of lyrics, and I'll just go in and sing all of it. And whatever sounds right, we'll just keep, and that'd be the song. Whereas in Australia, I'd sit down with the guitar and I'd write it all myself, and then go into the studio and say, I want this tempo from this song, and then this beat from this song, and these chords from the ones that I've written. But also as I'm driving between here in Sydney, I would voice memo random thoughts that would come into my head all the time. Or I have this huge notes in my phone. One of my notes is just lyrics of nothing, like if I'm watching a movie or if I'm in Woolies trying to buy chocolate bickies and something comes over me, then I'll write that down too and come back to it when I finally feel the urge to create something. It just hits me at random times.
This ain't just another thing to me. I ain't want to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know you got it good, so take my hand now.
This ain't just another thing to me. I ain't want to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know I got it good, so come and take my hand now. I never planned it like this, but now I can't call it quits. I got you wrapped around my wrist, and I can't let it go. Tired of being on the low with this. You're not what I need, no, but we're feeling it too deep, so don't come over just to sleep. Tell me now if you wanna with me. Kirrah and Sierra level up to me. I don't want you getting all needy. I know I can get a little greedy. I ain't tryna rush, I'm easy. If you got another, don't say it, need me. Don't say it, need me. Say you want me, I ain't leaving. I'll stay over in the evening. I'll believe you if you mean it. This ain't just another thing to me. I ain't want to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on, take my hand now. This ain't just another thing to me. I ain't want to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on, take my hand now. I see it's getting harder for you. Love me, that's what you're wanting to do. 'Cause something about you gets to me. I can't let it go. Tired of never knowing what to think. 'Cause I'm hopelessly romantic. Call me what you want. The feeling's automatic. I can be let down. So no, I ain't faking, I'm the private, I ain't playing. Take your key, don't keep me waiting. If you ask me, I would stay. This ain't just another thing, just another thing. I ain't one to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on, just go ahead and take my hand. This ain't just another thing to me. I ain't one to play no games, baby. I'ma give you one more chance. You know we got it good, so come on, take my hand. And this ain't just another thing to me. Oh, I ain't one to play no games. I'll give you one more chance. You know you got it good, so.
You just heard the track Take My Hand by Kirrah Amosa from her latest release. During the episode, you heard bits of the title track from the EP, Island Way. For more information about Kirrah's work, head to our website, cassetteconnection.com. Ben Hub, your time starts now.
What am I counting down? Like what are you?
You're on the clock, dude. What did you think about the episode?
What did I think about the episode? I thought it was great. I thought it was a great conversation.
Mm.
That was actually the first time that I had caught back up with Kirrah since returning from the US.
Mm-hmm.
She went over there, started working with new songwriters and all that kind of stuff, and put out that EP Island Way. It's really good. It's like really, the production's really good, really high quality stuff. And I think she mentioned it in the interview. It's like trying to find the where she can fit in with the kind of the island girl or like the Polynesian influence, where she can bring that in to the music. And when I was watching her perform, it wasn't just the music. It was the entire experience as well. It was like the dancing, the performance, the look, everything like that. And I think that's probably one of the most effective ways of trying to bring your heritage, your cultural ideas into the mainstream sound. It's hard as a, as someone with a cultural background as well. It's like how do you bring it into the music without it kind of being like gimmicky, or how do you make sure you're not misappropriating it or anything like that?
Yep.
And I think what she's doing is really, really good and really commendable.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So, and I thought it was a great episode. It's good to hear people who are working in that world talk about that world.
Yeah, totally. It's a nice, change of perspective from the past episodes we've done. This is a bit more, the commercial side of things, maybe.
Yeah. Just kind of like the industry vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is good. I really appreciate that. I want to thank Kirrah for coming on the episode. Thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Cassette Connection. Goodbye.
Bye.
Cassette Connection is recorded and produced by Ben Hub and Alex Ferrugia. For more information, head to our website, cassetteconnection.com.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Cassette Connection. And if you would like to be featured or just want to get in touch, our email is contact@cassetteconnection.com.